Hello everyone, from this video we'll be start working with Yajra DataTables. Now those who don't know about what is Yajra DataTable is, let me explain. Basically Yajra DataTable is a package for Laravel for implement data tables in it. Most of the time when we create any kind of application, we use table for showing datas, right? So instead of using classic tables, we can use data tables. So for implementing data tables, we can use this Yajra Datatable package because Yajra have some great features like it have live searching system, then data sorting system. You can export your table datas in any kind of format like PDF, Excel, CSV and more. And it has also pagination system which works really great and fast. So that's why most of the time for data tables we use Yajra Datatable package. So in the upcoming video we will learn about how to install YajraBox Datatable in Laravel, and we will be exploring all of the feature of YajraBox Datatable part by part. Okay, so that's it for introduction video. From the next video we will be start working with YajraBox. Till then, bye. Hello everyone. In this video we will be learning about how to export datatable contents in several formats. If you don't know about it, Yajra Datatable have a feature by that you can export your datatable contents in several formats like PDF, CSV, Excel, even you can print your database content directly. Okay? By default, it uses a plugin called Datatables buttons. If I scroll from the documentation, you can see at the plugin section, here is a plugin called buttons. If I open it, you will find an installation guide, configuration guide and other stuff. Basically, we don't have to install the plugins because if you recall that when we installed our Datatable package, we used this command for install our Yajra Datatable package, right? And in here, you can see here is a short note that if you are using most of the Datatable plugins like buttons, HTML, you can alternatively use the all-in-one installer package. So we are using this all-in-one installer package. So we don't have to install any kind of plugins separately. All the plugins already included into this package. So now let's see how can we implement export buttons. Now let's go to our project. As you can see, I already served my project and I am currently at the dashboard route, right? And in here, you can see here is a table. Basically, it's a data table that I added in my previous video. So currently it is not showing anything because we didn't compile our JavaScript and CSS. So let's run our Vite server. Let's open our terminal and I will run npm run div. Press enter and wait for compilation complete. You can see our server is running. Now let's go back to our browser and refresh. Now as you can see, I am getting the datas. This all datas are coming from database dynamically as I showed you before, right? So what we will do here, we will add some export button here for export these contents. Okay, so how can we do that? Let's open our code editor. I'll be opening my datatable class which is inside app datatables. Here it is. We created a user datatable class, right? Let's open it. Then from the class you have to find this HTML method. Okay, inside this HTML method you can see we are chaining some methods. Inside here you can see here is a method called buttons, right? It is taking an array. Inside the array, you have to provide what kind of button you want. By default, Yajra Datatable supports 6 buttons. First is Excel for export your content in Excel format. And second is CSV for export your content in CSV format. Similar way, we have PDF. And also you can directly print your content from your browser. And also we have additional buttons like reset and reload for reload or reset your table. Okay, now what I will do, I will uncomment these buttons. Okay, you can say I uncomment them. Let's go back to our front end and I'll be refreshing. Now as you can see, here some buttons appeared. Okay, these also are basically export buttons, but some reason you can see the styles not working. Okay, so something is wrong with our CSS. Let's go to our terminal. You can see inside the terminal, we're getting some errors. And basically the errors are coming from our app.css. So let's go to our app.css. Let's open resource, CSS, then app.css. You can see we added this lines of code from the documentation. So first of all, what I have to do is I have to put all of this line at the top. So let's go to top and paste them. Okay, now let's go back to our front end and refresh. You can see we are getting a error now at our front end. It is saying that variables not found. There isn't any kind of file called variables inside our resource/css. So for fixing this issue, what we will do, let's go back to our code editor. I'll be removing these two lines. First is variable, second is this bootstrap. We'll be not needing this two line of code. I'll just removing those. We'll be only importing the CSS files. Let's go back again at the front end and refresh. Now you can see our design issue is almost fixed. We are getting the icons, but still you can see we are getting some issue with our background color, right? So let's fix it. I'll be inspect these buttons. You can see here is a div called DT buttons. Let's click on it. Now let's click on it. Now I will click on this plus button and I will add a background color for this class, right? So let's add here background, let's say black. Okay, now let's copy this class and paste it inside our this app.css. So I'll be just pasting it here. Okay, and make sure you add the CSS at the bottom, otherwise it won't work. Now let's go back to our front end and I'll be refreshing this page. And now as you can see, our buttons are completely visible. So let's introduce with the export buttons. So first is for Excel export. If you want to export these contents in Excel format, you can use this button. Second is for CSV. If you want to export these contents in CSV format, you can use this button for export in CSV. Similar way, we have the PDF. If you want to export the contents in PDF, you can use the PDF. And then we have this print button. If you directly want to print this all contents, you can just click on this button, it will print it, right? Then we have these two buttons. One is for reset the table. If you click on here, it will reset the table. And another is refresh table. If you want to refresh the table, you can just click on it, it will reload the table. Okay, so even though our export buttons are showing fine, but for most of the buttons, the export feature will not work. Let me show you. Let's start with Excel button. Let's click on this Excel button. You can see our site is loading. And as you can see, it is showing us a error. So in the error, you can see it is saying that please install this package. So I'll be copying this package name and let's go to search bar and I'll be searching for this package. So as you can see, here is the official site. Let's open it. So basically, Yajra DataTable using this package called Laravel Excel for exporting its data into Excel format. So we have to install this package into our project also. So let's go to documentation, click on it. And from here, I'll go to installation section. Let's click on it. You can see here is the installation command. So let's copy it. Let's go to our terminal and paste it. You can see the package is installing. So as you can see, the installation is complete. So let's go to documentation again. Let's see what we have to do more. In here, you can see we have to publish our vendor. So let's copy this line. Let's go back to terminal again and paste this command. Press enter. You can see the vendor has been published. Okay. Now let's go back to our project. Let's refresh it. Now let's click again on this Excel button. I'll be clicking on it. Click. And as you can see, our site is loading. Basically in our database, there is 5,000 data. So it will take little bit time. And now as you can see, it downloaded a Excel file. Let's open it. You can see here is the file. I'll be opening with Excel. And in here, you can see we are getting all of our data from the database in Excel format. If I just make it a little bit big, you can see we are getting all of our data into Excel format. In here we have 5000 data, because in our database user table there are 5000 users. So we are exporting all the users data in this Excel file. Okay, cool, right? So now let's go to another button. So our Excel button is currently working fine. Now let's click on this CSV button. So let's click it. So as you can see, this action also downloaded a new file, and you can see the format which is CSV. If I open this file also, I'll be opening this with text editor. And in here you can see all of our data is in CSV format. Okay, we're getting all the 5000 data that we have in our users table. You can see here is number one data, and at the end we have 5001, right? So our CSV feature is working as well, so we don't have to fix it. Now let's go back to our project. Now we'll be clicking on PDF. So let's click on it. And as you can see, PDF export is giving us an error. In the error string, you can see you need to install this package to be able to use this feature. So I'll be copying this name. Let's paste it here to our search bar. And you can see here is the package at the GitHub. Open it. Scroll a bit. You can see here is a composer command for install this package. So I'll be copying this one and let's paste it inside our terminal. I think I made a mistake. Let's copy it and again paste it. Paste it here. I'll be hitting enter. As you can see, the package is installing. Let's wait a bit for completing the installation. As you can see, the installation has been completed. So that's mean we installed this package called Snappy PDF in our Laravel project, right? Now let's go back to our project. I'll be refreshing this page again. And now again hit on this PDF icon. I'll be clicking on it. In here you can see we're getting a new error. And the exception is saying that it couldn't find a path. In here you can see the system cannot find the path specified, this path. So let's go to documentation again. This is the package documentation, right? So let's scroll a bit. So in here is a command for publishing your vendor. I'll be copying it and let's go back to our terminal, paste it. So as you can see, our vendor is published. Now let's go back to our code editor and I'll be opening this config folder. Inside this config folder, you will find a file called snappy.php. Open it. And inside this PDF section, you will find a binary key. So in here, you have to provide the path of wk-html to PDF. Basically, this is a binary. That we need for using this package. So what I will do is I will just copy this name wk-html to PDF and search for this at the Google. You can see here is the official site. I'll be opening it. Let's go to downloads. So in here, I'm currently using Windows operating system. So I'll be downloading the file for Windows. You can choose your version, 64-bit or 32-bit. For me, it is 64-bit. So download the application and install it in your system. Okay. Basically, that will provide us the binary. So currently we're developing at our local machine. We have to install this wk-html to PDF application, right? After that, let's go to documentation again. Make sure you install this application. I already installed it, so that's why I am not installing it again. Now let's go to the documentation of the package. In here, you can see here is the path for Windows, right? So I'll be copying this path and let's go to our code editor. And I'll be replacing this path with it. Paste. Okay. So basically this is the path of the application that we just installed. I installed the application at my C drive. So that's why here is, you can see C. So if you installed the application in any other drive, you have to provide the drive name here. Okay, so now let's go back to our front end, and I'll be clicking on this PDF button again. You can see our site is loading. Let's wait for it finish. And as you can see, a new file has been downloaded, and it is a PDF file. So my browser already opened it for me. I'll be closing it. Let's open this PDF file manually. Let's click on it. You can see we are getting all of our data at PDF format, right? So now our PDF button is also working. So now let's go back to our project again. Now here is the fourth option, which is for the print. If I click on this button, you can see it redirect me to another page, and you can see here is all of the data. Now you can just simply print this table via pressing Ctrl+P, and this pop-up will show, right? So when the preview will load, you can just click on this print button, and it will print these data directly. Okay, so currently in my database there is, so that's why it is taking some time, but in your case it will depend on your data size. So I'll be just closing it. Let's go back. Okay, so all of our button is currently working, right? So here is two more button. As I said, if you want to reset your table, like if I go to second page, and if you want to go to again number one page, you can just click on this button. It will reset your table, and you are now at number one page, right? Now if I go to this 5 number page and click on this reload button, it will reload this page, only this page, right? Now we are not going to the first page because we are not resetting the table. We are just reloading this data. So these two buttons are also helpful. So basically these all are called Datatable buttons. Yajra Datatable currently support these 4 formats for exporting. If I am not wrong, there are another button like if you want to copy the whole table into your clipboard. For that there is another button, but we'll be not covering that. These 4 export buttons are enough. Okay. Now let's see if you don't want to use any kind of button. So how can you disable it? So let's go to our code editor. I'll be going to user datatable class. You can see here we added our export buttons, right? You just have to do like, I don't want this reset button. Okay. I'll be just commenting out or just remove this line from here. Let's go back and refresh. You can see the reset button is gone. Similar way, let's say I don't want this print button. So all I have to do, I have to remove or comment out this line, which is generating the print button. So let's comment it out. Let's go again at the front end and refresh. And you can see the print button is gone. Okay. So that's it. That's how you can work with Datatable buttons. You can export your Datatable data easily via them, and these features are really useful for most of the time when we develop a application. So I think that's it for this video, and I'll be seeing you. Hello everyone. In this video, we'll learn about Datatable column editing options. That means we'll be learning about how to add or remove a column into our Datatable. Okay. As you can see, in our Datatable, we have already defined some columns like action, ID, name, and more. So first of all, we will be seeing that how can we add a new column into our Datatable. So for that, let's go to our code editor and let's open our Datatable class that we created for our user model. So let's open this app folder, then go to Datatables folder. As you can see, here is our users Datatable, right? Let's open it. So in this class, you will find a method. Let's scroll a bit. You can see here it is get columns method. So if you want a new columns, you can just specify your column here. So for specifying a column, you just have to add here column, then colon, you have to call this make method. Then inside the make method, you have to provide your column name, and the column name have to be the name of your database table column. Okay, let's open our database. Let's open Laravel, then click on database, click on open. And currently, as you can see, we are using this database, which is Laravel packages. From here, let's click on users table. Let's go to datas. So in here you can see we have some table columns, and in our data table column, in here we have to provide a column name that exists in our database table. Okay, so let's go to our database again. You can see here is a column called email verified at. So I'll be adding this column into my data table. That's mean in this table, right? Let's go to our code editor, and in here I have to provide the column name. So let's go to database again. I'll be going to table users, and I'll be copying the table column name, which is this email verified at. So let's copy it and I'll paste it here, right? Okay, as you can see I made a typo here. It will be UMN column. Okay, now let's go back to our front end and refresh, and as you can see our page has been reloaded, and in here you can see we have a new column which is email verified at. Okay, this is the column we just add here, right? Now instead of this database column name, if I add another name that is not exist inside our users table, so let's see what happened. So instead of email verified at, if I remove this at from here, now if I go to my front end and refresh, you can see now we are getting an error because the name we provided into our data table column is not exist in our user table, right? If I go to database again, let's go to this data tab. You can see in here we don't have any kind of email verified column. We have email verified at column, right? So we have to provide the correct name. So let's say it will be email verified at, right? Now let's go to our front end and refresh it again. Now as you can see the error is gone and we are showing the column, right? Now let's see if I want to remove any kind of column from here, how can I do that? Let's go back to our class. Let's say I want to remove these two column, created at and the updated at. That's mean these two columns, right? So for that I can just simply remove these two line, or I can just comment them out. Okay, now if I go to front end and refresh, and you can see the both of the column has been disappeared. So that's mean the columns you will define inside this get column method will be appear into your front end data table, right? And make sure you add your columns inside this array. You can see this method is returning this array. Now let's uncomment this two. Okay, and I'll be removing our last column that we just added. Okay, now let's go back to front end and refresh. You can see the last column has gone. So that's all about the database column. As I said that if you want to show any kind of column at your front end data table, column name have to be exist into your database table, right? So what if you want a extra column? The column name isn't exist in your database, like this action column. We all know that when we create any kind of CRUD and show our data into table, we add a extra column where we add our action buttons, right? Like edit, show, delete buttons, right? So in that scenario, you have to add a extra column for show those buttons, right? So in our data table, you can see we have already a extra column, which is action. Basically, this column came out of the box when you create a new data table class. Okay. So now let's see how can we create extra columns like this into our data table. Let's open our code editor. You can see at the get column section, here is a already predefined column, which is a computed column. And in here, you can see this is the column name, which is action. Okay. And also if I go to top at the class, you can see here is another method, which is data table. In here, you can see here is a method add column. So inside this add column method, first is the column name and the second will be the value. So basically we are generating this column. You can see the name is action, and when we go to this get column method, you can see here is a column which name is action. If I go to my database, in our users table, there isn't any kind of action column, right? So this is a custom column. So what I will do, I will remove this column for now. Let's go to top. I'll be also removing this one. Now let's go back to our get columns method. At the last, I will again say column colon make. Then in here I will add action. The action is the name. Now if I go to my front end, refresh, you can see I'm getting the error because Datatable is trying to find this action column into my database. So what I have to do is I have to create this action column manually. For that, let's go to our code editor. Let's go to this Datatable method, and after here I will add a method which is add column. Okay, in the add column we have to provide the column name. So we added the column name is action, right? Let's copy it and paste it here. So this will be our column name and the value will be, let's say, for now I am just adding here action, a string. Okay, now let's go back to our front end and refresh. And as you can see, we're getting a new column name action, and inside the value we're getting a string action, right? So that's how you can create a custom column into your data table that isn't exist in your database table, right? So currently we are showing string in our action column. So what about if we have to add buttons here? So what we can do? It's kind of simple. Let's go back to our class. So basically this add column method takes a callback also instead of a string. So what we can do, we can add here a function. Then inside this function, we can pass argument. For argument, I will be passing this query. Basically, this query variable is a instance of our user model. So we are passing it as an argument into the callback. So let's add brackets here. So from here, I can return anything. So in here, I will add a return. So let's say from here, I'll return a anchor tag. So in here, let's say it will be a. I'll be adding class here. And the name will be edit. Okay. So in here, I added a anchor tag, right? Let's end this line. Now let's go to our front end and refresh. And in here at the action column, you can see we are now getting a edit button. So we can return HTML also from the value, right? Now let's go back. If I copy it and paste it again here, instead of now btn primary, let's say it will be danger and it will be delay. Okay. Now let's go again and refresh. You can see we are now getting two buttons. Now after that, let's add dynamic value into this anchor tag href. Now let's go to code editor. In the anchor tag, we have this href attribute. So for make this button dynamic, we have to add dynamic values into this href. So how can we do that? So instead of returning this HTML from here, if I return this query, I'll be returning this query and let's see the result. Let's go to our front end and refresh. You can see at the action, now we are getting a JSON object. Okay. As I said, this query is basically instance of our user model. So what we are doing, we are passing that instance as an argument inside our callback function. So we can use this query instance inside this function and add dynamic data into our href. So in here, I can just end this part by adding here a single quotation, and I'll be adding another single quotation. And inside this single quotation, we can concat. Okay, because we are in a PHP file, so we can do any kind of PHP stuff here. So in here, you can concat anything. You can here add here route, and as I said, you are getting all the values in the query. So you can add here your route name. Let's say user.edit, and after that you can just pass the user ID. For that you can just say query ID like this. So for that we have to create a route. Let's go to our web, and in here let's say I will create a dummy route. For now it will be get routes, and the route URI will be user/edit, and also we have to accept a dynamic parameter. So before edit I will add here ID. Then let's add a callback here. Sorry, function. So in here in this callback I can get the ID, and I will just return the ID from here. Okay, and also we have to add here the name of the route. The name will be user edit. Okay, let's end this line. Okay, so we created a route which is user edit, and into this route we have to pass a dynamic parameter. Now let's go to our Datatable class. You can see we already defined the route at our edit, right? Now if I go to my front end and refresh, you can see everything loads up. Now if I inspect this edit button, inspect, here you can see here is the A tag, and at the href you can see the route. So the route is user slash, you can see at the middle we are getting the dynamic ID, then edit. If I again inspect another edit button, you can see this one's ID is different. So that's mean we are dynamically rendering our buttons at this action column. Okay, so similar way you can do it with the edit button, right? Now if you want to add another custom column, it's simple, just similar way. Let's copy this method, paste it here. You have to add another add column method. Then inside here you have to provide the column name. Let's say the column name will be demo, and from the callback you can return any kind of value. You can add condition here or do whatever you like. So in here I can just return a string demo. Now let's end this line. Let's go to our front end and refresh, and as you can see the column isn't showing because we have to add this column name into our get column method, right? So let's copy this column name, let's scroll, and in this get column method you can see here is the array. Inside that array we have to call this column instance, then colon make, and inside the make you have to provide the column name. Let's go back, refresh, and now as you can see here is a new column name demo. So that's it. That's how you can add or remove a column from Datatable. So that's it for this video, and I'll be seeing you at the next one.